Popular Russian military blogger Yuri Podolyaka, usually loyal to the Russian Ministry of Defense, recently harshly described the situation near Dobropillia as alarming and catastrophic for Russia. Podolyaka bluntly states that the situation near Dobropillia is unfavorable for Russia and that Russian units have found themselves practically encircled. He notes that the Ukrainian Armed Forces have deployed more than half of their assault units there and are attempting to cut off the salient to force a break in the blockade and outflank Russia's positions from the north. In other words, a real large-scale tactical threat. Podolyaka directly uses the word catastrophe and warns, if this happens, the consequences will be felt for a very, very long time, meaning a snowball effect is possible throughout the autumn campaign. He notes serious losses and depleted personnel. There are few of us, there are no people. The flow of mercenaries is drying up and bully assaults are leading to dramatic losses. Podolyaka emphasizes that the fighting is house to house and that losses are heavy on both sides. But the key is that Russia is increasingly short of resources and manpower. Viktor Trehubov, spokesman for the Dnipro Operational Strategic Group of Troops, when answering questions about the details of the counteroffensive operation in the Dobropilya direction, said that armed forces strikes are destroying Russian logistics near Dobropilya, causing the Russians to lose ground there. This was reported on television. They infiltrated in small groups through the first line of Ukrainian defense and then combined these small groups with a larger group, occupied positions and tried to break through. Then they tried to fortify what they had already captured and bring in reinforcements. At some point at this stage, they began to fail. Thanks to effective countermeasures, we began to strike them, which began to destroy their logistics, and they began to gradually lose their positions. This continues to this day, he said. Trehubov noted that the Russians stretched their troops too thin on the front line. They are also currently unable to provide sufficient supplies. According to the spokesman, the Russians tried to send reinforcements, but these actions were unsuccessful. They actually have to push through a bottleneck which is not very convenient for them. This is where they failed. The passage they left for themselves turned out to be too narrow. And when they try to bring in some equipment or establish supplies, they are attacked from both sides, he said.
Moldovans are facing a flood of disinformation driven by artificial intelligence ahead of a critical parliamentary election, which will determine whether the small country can stay on its path toward the European Union or is pulled back into Moscow's orbit. Ahead of Sunday's vote to choose a new 101-seat legislature, multiple online monitoring groups have tracked propaganda and disinformation campaigns attributed to Russia. Their aim is to diminish support for the ruling pro-European Party of Action and Solidarity, or PAS, in a vote many view as a geopolitical choice between East and West. Researchers say the coordinated campaigns mark a new phase in Russian influence operations, built on fresh infrastructure and heavy use of AI. Spoof websites impersonate legitimate Western media and pay engagement farms in Africa, while AI bots are deployed to flood comment sections deriding PAS and the EU. Moldovan President Maya Sandu warned that Sunday's vote will be the most consequential in her country's history, which will determine whether Moldova becomes a stable democracy or whether Russia pulls the country away from Europe. She said joining the EU will protect Moldova from the greatest threat we face, Russia. Police on Monday arrested 74 people in 250 raids as part of an investigation into an alleged Russia-backed plan to incite mass riots and destabilize the country. The pro-European PAS, which Sandu founded in 2016, won a clear majority in the 2021 parliamentary election but risks losing it on Sunday, with no viable pro-European alternatives on the ballot but several Russia-friendly ones. In the wake of Russia's full invasion of Ukraine in 2022, Moldova applied to join the EU and was granted candidate status that year, and Brussels agreed to open accession negotiations last year.
Well, I think it's pretty clear that the Kremlin is using Moldova as a case study, as a kind of sandbox to test out different techniques. And it's pretty clear that they will simply roll the same techniques into other campaigns in other countries. We saw it in the Polish elections last year. We saw it in the Romanian elections. This is a set of tactics that they're evolving over time, and they're testing them out in small countries where they think the companies aren't paying attention and the great powers won't hold the companies accountable. And so far, they've been right. Now, we've been tracking Russian influence operations since the full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, and we have learned to detect the fingerprints of these Russian secret services in lots of different countries, and we've traced them across Eastern Europe and seen them really active in Moldova. Not surprising, because Moldova has some very critical elections, not least the vote about their posture towards the European Union. This is, in a way, the first major test case in the confrontation between Russia and Europe.
We have our experience with fight with Russia and fugitive oligarchs who spent a lot of money in our elections to bribe the votes, and our authorities are more prepared, like most of European countries in this case. So we know how to fight with Russian propaganda, with Russian pro-Russian oligarchs, but we need more support from our partners, because we tell them what is going on in this campaign, but we need to see more actions than words, than phrases. We sustain Moldova. We understand you sustain Moldova, but we need you to take actions in these cases, because the words will not save our country from a pro-Russian regime if this election will be corrupted by Russia.